We have a new set of service chiefs. They were appointed last week. And of course, their very first challenge will be this week because the DSS last week put out an advisory suggesting there could be imminent attack even as the country gets set for another round of holidays. This time, the Eid al-Kabir holiday. It was revealed that a plot by terrorists to attack worship centers during the celebrations with EIDs. Of course, that's what the DSS told us. Will terrorism come to an end, or at least be reduced to the barest minimum with the new service chiefs in place? Should we expect more collaboration between the armed forces and, of course, all the other security agencies who are saddled with this responsibility? And what role can you, listening to the show right now, play to ensure that the country gets back to some level of sanity? These issues will get us talking on the show this evening, and it's my cue to welcome you to another Monday and another time where we bring you the Newsroom. The Newsroom is a program packaged by Nigeria Info's Newsroom, where we try to take a critical look at some of the big stories that have made the rounds in the past 7 days. Ufuoma Egbamuno is my name, and I'm just representing the Newsroom right here. I've got capable colleagues who toil day and night to ensure that we bring you the very best of news, concise, accurate, professional as possible, all day, every day, Mondays through Sundays. Even when we're not on air, we're actually doing the news. You see that on our website. Well, the show today will, as always, is streaming on Facebook and on YouTube. Facebook is Nigeria Info FM. YouTube is Nigeria Info 993. I have a very, very special guest on the show today, a security chief who understands what it is to actually look into some of these big issues that has been bedeviling us in the last couple of years. You get to meet him very, very soon. But let me just take a wrap of some of the big stories that have made the round over the last 1 week. I did tell you about the DSS and the advisory they gave about a possible plot to attack during or before and possibly after the Eid al-Kabir celebrations. By the way, breaking news, just put out about 10-15 minutes ago. The federal government has declared Wednesday and Thursday as public holiday to mark the Eid al-Kabir celebrations. All of you that were waiting to add Friday to it, it's not happening. We are all coming to work on Friday. Well, the what do you call it again? Holidays have never ever concerned those of us on this side of the divide. Sorry. Last time I had holidays was when I was a secondary school teacher about 23 years ago or thereabout. Now that I work in this industry, holiday, Saturday, Sunday, we gotta work. Anyway, back to the issue. We saw the Lagos State University's best graduating student receiving 10 million naira from Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu. Absolutely brilliant gesture there from the governor, giving his own personal 5 million and 5 million from the state government, and of course to ensure that people or students still have regard for their studies, because it does look like in recent times people don't take it seriously anymore. Well, Serap planned to drag President Tinubu to court over the 144% salary increment proposed by the RMAFC. We also saw news from the federal government telling us that the damaged Eko and Akpomo Bridge will be reopened in the next 17 or 18 days or thereabout, 15th of July to be precise. Today's date is what, 26th? Okay, we still have about 4 days left plus 15, so that's about 19 days. My bad, my maths was wrong there a bit. We also saw former Education Minister Obi Ezekisili asking Governor Babajide Sanwo-Olu to actually publish details of the demolished buildings at the Alaba International Market. We also saw NAFDAC raising alarm over proliferation of illegal herbal drugs in the country. And they also talked about the fact that the Indomies produced in the country do not have issues. Remember when that news broke some weeks or months ago? They've done their investigation and they told us that there's nothing wrong with the noodles that we eat, that you all eat, because I've never tasted noodles in my life before. But that's a story for another day. The River State Police Command also dismissed report of existence of the disbanded anti-special robbery squad. We also saw President Bola Tinubu replacing all his service chiefs, which will get us talking in a matter of minutes. Former River State Governor Nyesom Wike revealed he was poisoned in 2018, even though there was a counter to that, an aide of the PDP presidential candidate, coming out to say that, no, that's not what costs the ailment you have. You've been drinking too much. Anyway, they know how they settle themselves. We also saw a woman, her baby, and 6 others die as a result of flood in the Agege area. And sadly, on Saturday night, we saw the news on Sunday, but on Saturday night, a foremost professor of communication, one who, I dare say, quite a lot of journalists in Lagos have had to go through his tutelage, either in their first degree or second degree, or possibly in some form of conference or the other. Professor Lai Osho died in an accident on his way back from my alma mater, sadly, Delta State University, where reportedly he had gone to do external examination for the mass comm department there. On his way back, had an accident and sadly lost his life. I was fortunate to meet him just about 2 months ago at a conference organized by the U.S. Embassy. And you could literally see how infectious he was. Down to earth, always wanting everybody to be happy. The paper presentation he actually gave that day was excellent. At first, I was wondering why almost everybody in the hall, wanted to talk to him, wanted to say hi to him. I'm like, who's this man? But after his paper that day and after the way he ensured that each and every one of us who were part of that training, understood what exactly he was saying, it dawned on me that, okay, this is why everybody was doing what they were doing. And reading the takes from a couple of my colleagues, journalists across the different media in Lagos, you get to understand how much of an impact the man has actually had, not just on academia, but of course on this profession of ours. On behalf of Nigeria Info's Newsroom, and of course my colleagues, I want to pray that his family, would have the fortitude to bear this sad loss. Okay, guys, let's move on to the reason why we are here today. Tuesday evening, we got the news that the president has replaced his service chiefs and asked those who were there before to, of course, move on. He appointed Nuhu Ribadu, former EFCC chairman, as a national security advisor. Major General Christopher Gwabin Musa, the chief of defense staff. Major General Tarid Abiodun Lagbaja, the chief of army staff. Rear Admiral Emmanuel Ogala as the chief of naval staff. And Air Vice Marshal Hassan Bala Abubakar, the chief of air staff. We also saw the appointment of DIG Kayode Egbetokun as the acting inspector general of police. We saw Major General EPA Undiandeye as the chief of defense intelligence, and Adeni Bashir Diwali as the acting controller general of customs. Now, while the newly appointed service chiefs have been talking tough, yes, that's the usual case. They talk tough at the very beginning. The question on many Nigerian lips have been, well, when are we going to go back to normal? Or are we going to actually go back to normal? And just as that was happening, we saw the DSS issue a warning, asking Nigerians to be vigilant, asking malls, shops, and places where people gather to be very, very, careful and report any suspicious movement or activity that they see. Because, of course, the DSS says there are plans by terrorists to either before, during, or just after the Eid al-Kabir celebrations go ahead with terrorist attacks. Remember, the DSS said something like this about 2 years ago, was it last year? And if you saw the issue in Owo, where they just marked the anniversary, 1 year anniversary. Anyway, on the show today, that's what we're going to talk about. And I have a very, very important guest who will be joining me on the show this evening. He is a former DSS director, so he knows all about the workings of this particular agency. Mike Ejiofor has joined us on the show this evening. A very good evening to you, sir. Welcome to the newsroom. Trying to ensure that connection works particularly well. Hello, sir. Good evening. Okay. My producer, actually, not my co-producer. We did not produce this thing together. My producer, Emmanuel Onwoka, is with me in the studio. So hopefully in a matter of seconds or a minute, we will try and get that line connected once again. But of course, like I did mention, Mr. Mike Ejiofor, former DSS director, is our guest on the show today. And we're trying to look at that advisory, but of course, take a quick look at what the service chiefs, the new service chiefs, the enormous issue they have. Good evening to you, sir. Welcome.
Yeah, you are sounding faint. I can barely hear you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you very much for taking time to join us this evening. All right, let's do the mission now. So, further to the point of but before we talk about the new guys, let's talk about persons. To Nigerian security, the security just out of
Well, this is for average people to do national development. If we are not able to solve our entire security challenges, because the challenges are still festering. So we have a lot of challenges. You go to the northeast, you have the issue of Boko Haram. You go to north central, you talk of mass kidnapping. The same thing with northwest. The issue of agitation for the state of Biafra in the
southeast,
and south. You have the issue of oil theft and southwest. You also have, so virtually everywhere we have problems. And I don't think there's any way the people would have, the service chief would have solved the entire problem because of the economic situation in the country. We needed to operate in a very cordial environment. We have the issue of underfunding, we have the issue of corruption, we have the issue of, so many challenges, confronting the challenges itself, So they've tried their best. And new henchmen have been appointed, and I believe there's going to be a change in approach and tactics, to ensure that all these security challenges are confronted frontally.
Okay, so you just mentioned economic reasons as one of one of the challenges or one of the reasons we have the kind of enormous security challenges that we have. Petrol subsidy has just been taken off. It has more or less increased, the cost of living. In a matter of days, the new electricity tariff, which is a 40% increase, will come into play. We all know that to a large extent, that's going to make things even worse than it actually is right now. Do you not think that from an economic point of view, that's going to just increase the already bad security situation that we found ourselves?
Obviously, it is going to increase the challenges. We have crime wave rising. In fact, as we speak, many people have parked their vehicles and because they can't afford to buy the fuel, there's going to be increase, and in crime waves. And more so, if the tariff is increased, many people will be thrown out of, even though the power has not been regular, and they are now talking of increasing, making it unaffordable. You're going to throw a lot of people out of job, and the alternative is to go into criminality. So I agree with you that it's going to have a lot of adverse effects. But I believe also, since the Nigerian Labour Congress and government are discussing, they should do that as quickly as possible to bring palliatives to see how we can solve this, because definitely it's going to create more challenges, security challenges.
Okay, let's talk about the new service chiefs. Quite. I think it was. I think it was the chief of army staff, if my memory serves me right, who just last week was talking about how almost all of them are from the same. Goodness me, my thoughts fail me for a second. That they're from the same course, and so they know each other, and to a large extent, it's going to help that synergy between all of them. But the cynic in me would say, we don't hear this thing before. We've heard this before. We've heard this kind of tough talk, at the beginning of appointments. What do you think the new service chiefs need to do differently that the guys that came before them have not done?
Well, like the president said, that he's going to invest more on security. He has assured us he's going to invest more on security. He has also appealed to the security agencies not to work in silos, to make sure they all synergize and work together. So that should be a different approach. But it goes beyond, working together without the necessary tools. There has to be increased funding. And not only that, I believe government will have to leave more of the kinetic approach to non-kinetic approaches. Because if you address some of the grievances on ground, it's bound to help solve some of the security challenges, now making the security agencies, giving them less work to do. I'll give you an example. The issue of the Southeast, for instance, is political, so it requires a political solution. That if it's the issue of Kano, if Kano is looked at and possibly released, it's going to douse tension. At this point, I think I must commend government, having appointed one of the service chiefs from the Southeast. There was jubilation. The Ohanese has applauded the appointment, but it goes beyond that. Government should go further to see how they can solve some of them that are political, to the political solutions. Go to somewhere like Benue, where you have these headers and natives always fighting, go to Plateau. So set up panels to look at all this and reduce areas of tension.
But one could argue that panels have been set up in... Sorry to cut you. Sorry to cut you there, but one could argue that panels have been set up in places like Plateau and Benue, to solve this issue. It's been an age-long problem for as long as I can remember, and I'm just over 40. Hello, sir. Did you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying that you talked about, panels being set up, in places like Benue and Plateau. Good. You mentioned the Southeast issue. I think I want to agree with you to a large extent that it's possibly a political issue, that needs political solution. But I'm just, talking about the Plateau and Benue crisis. Panels have been set up for as long as I remember by successive governments, even before we got back to the Fourth Republic in 1999. But that clash doesn't seem to want to end. Do you think panels will solve that?
The truth is that we have more than enough solutions to our problem. All those panels, where are the white papers? Have any of them been implemented? I'll give you an example of 2014 National Conference. If that paper had been implemented, I'm sure most of these challenges will not be there. So if you're not setting up new panels to look at the issues, go back to the old ones and dust them up and then look at solutions profiled in those papers and see how we can use them. We have more than enough solutions, but the lack of political will on the part of government to implement such of the things, what is the challenge.
Okay. Now let's talk about the appointment of former EFCC chairman Nuhu Ribadu as the national security advisor. For folks like you who are in the security business, maybe not you personally, but I've heard quite a lot of grumblings, especially from possibly ex-military officers, talking about how appointing someone who is not a retired general or who is not from the army, might not necessarily go down well as the national security advisor. Are you of that school of thought? If not, why?
Well, for me, anybody can be appointed national security advisor. I only had problems when he was made a special advisor. And I suggested in one of my interviews that position should be elevated to the office of national security advisor. Because if you had special advisor and national security advisor side by side, there was definitely going to be conflict. So on the issue of appointment of military men as national security advisor, there's nowhere it's written in the constitution that I must be a military person. I think the military, because most of the presidents we had were military men, felt more comfortable using military men. Apart from Yaradua and Goodluck Jonathan, virtually all the previous presidents were military men from 1999. You talk of Obasanjo, you look at
Buhari,
the immediate past president, and the rest of them. So they were patronizing their constituency. So I believe that the president, the current president, who is also a full civilian and a Democrat, will want to use a different approach to see how he can achieve a result. Don't also forget that Nuhu Ribadu, with his international connections as chairman of the EFCC, has a lot of reach and leverage to exploit. He was one-time presidential candidate of ACN. So if he had been elected, automatically he will be president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces, just like the current president is president and commander-in-chief of the armed forces. You don't need to have a military background. The office of the NSA, you have contributing agencies, you have officers working, collating and formulating policies for government. His going there is just to coordinate and advise the president. So I don't see anything wrong with it.
Okay, brilliant. I think I agree with you on that one, but just needed some bit of explanation from your end. So what would be your just before I ask you that question, in case you just tuned in, it's 99.3 Nigeria Info. The program is The Newsroom. My name is Ufuoma Egbamuno, and of course you can as well watch this show live on Facebook. Our Facebook portal is Nigeria Info 993, and you can also watch it on YouTube. It is Nigeria Info FM. And my guest on the show today is the former DSS director, Mike Ejiofor, who's been giving us his wealth of experience as it concerns some of these very complex security challenges that we have. All right, sir, let me come back to you once again. What would be your advice to the new service chiefs if you were put in a room and you were asked to tell them what you think will be the best way to solve or at least to reduce to the barest minimum? We might not be able to solve everything, in one breath. But what would be your advice to them on what needs to be done to at least reduce the issues we have?
Well, my advice will start from the government. There must be adequate funding of security, and not just funding, because people have argued that there have been a lot of funding. What of the oversight? How are they used? Are they properly channeled, and the rest of them? So my advice is that government should fund security and ensure proper oversight, both from the office of the NSA and the National Assembly. Before I now come to the service chiefs, They must work together, just like Mr. President has said. They must not work in silos. There must be exchange of intelligence. They must try and have regular meetings to see areas and prioritize the challenges and look for ways to solve such problems. In addition to that, on part of government, security challenges are local. So, solutions to such security challenges too are local. I'll go ahead again to advise government to ensure that the National Assembly works a way out of establishing state police, because it's going to be very effective. We have been trying all this thing, but the argument from people is that the state police will be abused. And I say any person whose right is abused should go to court and challenge enforce his rights. So my advice to them generally is that they should work together and not work in silos.
Okay, great. So let's now talk about your former constituency, the DSS. The advisory they put out last week, talking about the possible plans, terrorist attacks this week when we hope to celebrate, the Eid al-Kabir for our Muslim brothers. What do you make of that? And how do you think the average Nigerian who's listening to you right now, what must he or she do, to help at least in some way the situation?
Well, it's an advisory, and you see some arrests were made. Confessions must have been made too, which led to the advisory, especially as we are working towards the Salah, the public holidays, which has just been declared for Wednesday and Thursday. So everybody must be vigilant. That's the essence of that message, and that's we should be taken seriously, by like the excuse me, like the proper saying that you see something, you say something.
Okay, so the chairman of the Christian Association of Nigeria, Kaduna State Chapter, Joseph John Hayab, had a sort of a different opinion to give to that DSS advisory. He says the DSS should stop issuing security alerts at festive periods, and that they should go after terrorists and criminals inflicting pains on Nigerians. I know that you might not totally agree with the thoughts of the CAN chairman from Kaduna State, but that could be like a symptom of the frustrations that the average Nigerian feels, don't you think?
Well, I don't think so. It's his opinion. He's entitled to it. If he likes, let him not take the message serious and wait for the arrest to be made, and he will see the consequences of his own action. For me, as far as I'm concerned, in intelligence operations, no information should be taken lightly.
True.
So do you know how many arrests the SSS makes every day? Do you have to come to the members of the public to be able to announce all the arrests made, all the outcome of some of the sensitive investigations that are ongoing? Let us cooperate. We should not leave our security just to the security agencies alone. We should all work together to ensure safety of our country.
So I have a question from one of my listeners, Obi. Obi is asking, why does it look like it's a bit of a challenge for our security personnel, and this includes everybody, to actually forestall some of these issues, from the kind of special forces units that they have, to possibly track some of these things before they happen, and not a question of reacting. Because I think if I remember clearly, the acting Inspector General of Police did mention something like that last week. Where he says that he said that the police, will be looking at trying to stop criminality from happening, and not a question of just reacting to those criminal events when they eventually happen. Why does it seem a bit difficult, for our security personnel to stop these things from happening?
Well, the problem remains that there's no way you do to satisfy human beings. If you arrest and parade, they say you are infringing on their rights. You don't talk talk about your findings, they complain. My own conclusion is, because you see, this interview. I can barely hear you. Hear you. I'm just trying to pick some of the things you have said. The audio is really, really bad.
My bad.
So
my
what
bad.
I'm saying is that everybody needs to get involved in looking for solutions because security is paramount. If you don't have, there cannot be any meaningful development in any society without security. So we must all take it serious. It's not how far we've gone or how we go about it, but how do we achieve results. And with the new hands, like you said, that new brooms with cleaners, we expect and pray for them that they will work and achieve results better than consolidating on the achievements of the previous service chiefs.
Oh, all right, sir. My final question to you. There's absolutely no way I'll have you on this show and not ask you something that has to do with how your former constituency, the DSS, has been handling the issue of the former, or is it? No, the suspended CBN governor. He's not former yet. The suspended CBN governor. If you can hear me very well, the question is, how would you address, the arrests, investigations, and the way it's sort of been shrouded in secrecy? At a point in time, the suspended governor talked about the fact that he's not been able to reach his lawyer or his family, but of course the DSS came out and denied that is not the case. It looks like the investigations have been shrouded in secrecy. Could that investigation could it not have been done by the Nigerian police? Did it need to be done by the DSS?
That question should be directed to Mr. President. There's a clause under the SSS Enabling Act. Any other assignment from the president. So if Mr. President gives a directive, go and investigate this for me, we say no, it's not my responsibility. So, and these are high sensitive issues that I wouldn't like to comment on because they're highly sensitive. I don't even know the details of the investigation. I don't know what they're investigating. So I'm not in a position to... at times I read in social media and see all kinds of allegations and funny stories that are non-existent, that Emefiele was sponsoring terrorism, sponsoring IPOB and all these are ridiculous claims, and I'm not in a position to make such
just to add an extra information, sir. Those allegations are really not social media allegations. It's actually a report from at least a reputable news organization which looked at the court papers that the DSS filed in December against Emefiele. And some of the charges in those court papers included one that you just mentioned, that he was allegedly financing terrorism. So it might not just...
Did you say IPOB there?
Well, they said I think it was terrorism in the southeast or something. I'm not so certain. Let me not quote wrong information, but allegedly it was one of the charges that the DSS brought to the court in December.
Have you seen some of the allegations in the social media? I've seen some ridiculous and unbelievable. Like I said, I'm not in a position to make such a subjudice. I'm not investigating the matter. So unless when they come to court, they will begin to give you the details of the charges against any of them.
Okay. All right. I want to say a very big thank you to you, sir, for taking time off your busy schedule to join us on the show this evening.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. All right, guys. We have been speaking to former DSS. Every time we call him on the show, he always finds a way to do that, to honor us. And we would like to appreciate Mr. Mike Ejiofor and all the guests, that we usually try to have on the newsroom. It's been an amazing time talking to you. A couple of minutes. Oh, no, I have just 2 minutes or thereabout. I'm not sure that will be enough for me to take any of your thoughts and reactions, especially from the phone lines, so that we don't end up talking and then I have to cut off. But, guys, like the former DSS director, Mike Ejiofor, said, security is everybody's business. It is your business. It is my business. So as we prepare to go and eat the Salah Ram By the way, I have an invite. Anyway, as you prepare to go eat the Salah Ram and enjoy the festivities this week, be security conscious. You get into your car, lock it almost immediately. Don't just carry your phone and start making calls in the middle of the road and shouting about how you have so millions or you're doing business of so millions. Sometimes, you're indirectly just passing on information that you never can tell who is listening. So if you go to public places, be on the lookout. It just might save a life. On behalf of the newsroom team, my producers, Emmanuel Onwoka and Nena Okon, thank you very much, guys, for joining us. I'll be back again next week, Monday, for another bumper package of this show. Before Monday, I'll be here on Sunday for Rewind. My producers will break my head. They will say every time I come on the show, I talk about the Sunday show. But hey, if I don't talk about it, who will? Anyway, guys, I'll see you. Happy Salah celebrations. Eat the rams, small. Don't look for trouble. Public holidays, Wednesday and Thursday. Yes, it's been officially declared by the federal government just under an hour ago. So Wednesday, Thursday, no work if you're a federal civil servant or if you're part of people that take on this holiday. I'll see you guys later. Take care.
The only station that puts you first.
Security apparatus that we have, they are not only ghosts. They cannot be everywhere at the same time. Let every Nigerian be the first responder to whatever crime that is being perpetrated towards them.
You see, if government is doing exportation, I know that nobody is going to frustrate them. And they will create jobs for people, but they're just sitting down, they're waiting for money to be shared.
Your number one station for talk. 99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
More conversation, more talk, more right after this.